It is now time for another AEW Dynamite review here on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. How you doing? I'm Warren Hayes. Hope you all had a lovely Christmas. I know I did. Very successful on my part. I've been chronicling. The well, to a certain degree, all the preparations that I've been going through for receiving, for inviting, receiving, hosting. That's the word I was looking for. The hosting the annual Christmas Day meal again this year. So got everything set up, got everything ready, and I must say, went pretty well. I always try to temper my own expectations where I'm like, okay, well, this went well. This was a nice little time that we had here. However, I will say this, many pats on my back for this one. Not to toot my own horn, but here we go. This was quite possibly the absolute best turkey I have ever made since I've been cooking turkeys, which is few years ago. But legitimately, like, I never miss with my turkeys. That's the thing. I had my brother-in-law pull me aside, and he said, Warren, listen to me. This was your best turkey ever. Now, not to say that the others were not good, because they were very good. But Warren, this one this here that I just put in my mouth, that I just chewed and savored and swallowed to be further digested, that was your best turkey. Now, he may not have said all of that. I may be, embellishing for the story's sake a little bit as far as his quotation goes. But he did say that what we need to learn here is that he did say that this was the best turkey he's ever had. So what more do you want, really? That's enough to carry me for another couple of months, live that high, inflate that ego, make you feel special for a little bit. I was very satisfied with that, but there was a lot of work involved as it is. I rested yesterday on the 26th on Boxing Day. I took it nice and easy. Had other people cook. So, just like, we're good now. I'll take just a little breather. Got everything set up. Watched Dynamite. Finally got around to watching the December 25th Dynamite, which we will be, if I can stutter my way through this, which we will be talking about once I'm done, covering all these unnecessary bases. Yeah, I finally got around to watching it last evening. Sat down, watched the whole thing. And now we're back. We're here. First bit of content that I've done in over a week, I believe, at this point, right? Could it be that the last time I did any content was last Thursday. Oh, no, wait, there was the I did the Ring of Honor Final Battle review. So that was settled. No, that was the last bit of content that I did. Look, the point is that I haven't been doing much because I have been prepping, getting ready, but now we're going to get back into the swing of things. Now things are going to get a little more regular. If you watch other stuff than the Dynamite review here on the channel, which you should, subscribe to the channel, by the way, then let it be known that things will be getting back to normal. We'll be getting back to the streaming schedule. Might even have, some things in that we're going to pull out of our Christmas sacks and try some stuff out. Like, it'll be very exciting stuff. I'm very excited to see how things are going to go over the next couple of weeks. Well, got some plans. Let's put it that way. We'll see how things go. And of course, then there's going to be the Wrestle Kingdom. There's going to be the Wrestle Dynasty. There's a lot of Japanese shows, period, around the new year. You got the Dream Queendom show. There's a lot of stuff happening. Dream Queendom is this weekend. On top of that, it's the 29th for Stardom, right? Then you have the Noah show, which looks particularly good. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to watch when the holidays come around. So I'm excited. It's not necessarily AEW stuff, but nonetheless, we still have an AEW pay-per-view this weekend on December 28th. So that's also very exciting. World's End, I'm going to be reviewing that, of course. So yeah, it's galore galore, reviews galore that are waiting for you here on the channel. As far as the AEW Dynamite review goes, well, we might as well get into it because we've been skating around the whole thing for a while at this point, and this is actually the last Dynamite review of 2024. So the next time we see each other, it will be a brand new and fresh year. It'll be January 2nd, right? Probably, likely, very likely that we'll be back on schedule. I was a little late this year. Well, I mentioned it, right? We just mentioned it. I watched it. I forewarned everyone last week. Like, I was not going to watch Dynamite on the 25th. And on the 26th, I will eventually watch it, depending when my company would be in the old dusty trail. And they did, late Thursday night. So once they were all gone, I just flipped on the old TV apparatus and started watching it. And now I've got fully fleshed out thoughts ready to go a day later than when I usually do the review, which is not a big deal. It's the holidays. Get off my back, boss. So let's talk about it. AEW Dynamite, December 22nd. Well, it was taped on December 22nd, last Sunday, but of course aired on December 25th, 2024, emanating from New York City in the Hammerstein Ballroom, the last of the, I don't know if you could call this like AEW's mini residency in the Hammerstein, right? Another packed house, 1,491 tickets distributed, according to WrestleTix, of course, which would come up to pretty much everything that was available. As we mentioned before, the overall capacity of the Hammerstein is more around 2,500. I just don't know how many tickets then are taken away for production purposes, for the ramp, for the et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know how much is just naturally taken away, but to say that these were not successful would be being in bad faith. And I mean, successful for what's been happening with AEW recently. Over the past year, it's been one of the stories for AEW, right? The shrinking attendance. They probably could have done more here, but the point is we've talked about this multiple times. Smaller venues, you pack up the place, it looks better for TV, feels better for people watching on TV, for the wrestlers, for everyone involved. And you have to think that the New York crowd for both Collision and Dynamite, by the way, because I did watch Collision as well, you would have to think that the Hammerstein crowd just helped to light a fire under a few people. It's got to feel so much better. It's got to feel so much better. Look, this is a broken record that we talk about many, many times, so we don't have to necessarily spend another 15 minutes talking about it, says he before spending another 15 minutes talking about it. But nonetheless, the tickets, not the tickets, but the venue itself being full like that, even though it's a smaller venue, is an absolute help. Like, this is the kind of thing that is much better for the overall quality of the show, to have a smaller yet packed venue as opposed to, a basketball arena filled up, only a third of the building filled up and feeling cavernous and empty. It's not good for the crowd energy. It's not good for anyone. So, the AEW started doing this, started packing smaller venues through the last end of 2024. And I think those shows have been better. I think they've improved the overall vibe. I think it feels hotter. I think the show feels hotter. When you see the Hammerstein crowd just on their feet going nuts, I think it's a different feel. And this again was another good crowd. It was another good crowd on hand for the show that closed up the Continental Classic, at least regular league action. It all came to a halt on that day. 5 C2 matches. I was wondering how they were going to pack it all in. It had been a while since we hadn't seen a Dynamite with so many matches on it. Kind of harkening back to the feelings of those good old Dynamites of old, where that's essentially what you'd get, just action on top of action on top of action with very minimal nonsense. This is a kind of show that's made for WarrenHayes. Like this, I'm not gonna lie, this is right up my right up my wheelhouse. This is what I like to see. It's a good one. It's a good one. I enjoyed the show. I thought it was overall, I thought it was good. We had some really good stuff, some stuff that didn't hit as well, but I wouldn't say that, I wouldn't say that there were any disasters on the show. Look, I liked it. What do you want from me? Oh, you want me to review it in detail? Okay. Well, first of all, as far as the Continental Classic goes, we know now who is going to be facing off at the World's End pay-per-view this weekend, and in the semis at the very least. It's going to be Ricochet versus Kazuchika Okada. Ricochet ended up winning Gold League with 10 points. And in the other semis, as I kind of thought we were going to do as we were getting closer and closer to this, Kyle Fletcher wins Blue League with 12 points. He is going to be facing Will Ospreay, who came in the runner-up seat for Gold League at 9 points. Ospreay, I think that advertising this match is probably a smart thing to do. I think it's a match that will probably get AEW fans excited, might get people interested in what's going on there, might sell a few more tickets. We'll see, because this is a big match. It was Ospreay versus Fletcher was a huge match from the Full Gear pay-per-view. So it makes sense that they run it again and that they take the time to advertise it. Maybe finally AEW is learning about advertising matches to get people excited in the show so that they can actually buy tickets instead of just like banking on surprises and unannounced stuff to get people in there. That could only go so far with only special people involved. There were only you can't pull this off with just anyone. It had to be with some very special people to just start up a show, not necessarily announce this big star's presence, but then count on the fact that everyone will be expecting said big star's presence, and that will get them excited enough to buy tickets. You can't do that all the time. So I think this is actually the best move, and I still think that I still kind of feel that we're gonna get Okada and Ospreay in the finals. As I've said from the get-go, as we started talking about the Continental Classic, I think that Kazuchika Okada and Will Ospreay in the finals that's a big time final match. That is one where if the vibe they want to give the C2 moving forward is the biggest wrestling tournament in the world, the most prestigious, so on and so forth, as they've branded it on the lead and on the way to these finals here all throughout. You had Excalibur saying how this was the biggest, the most prestigious tournament in wrestling, even though it's 2 years in. Well, you got to put your money where your mouth is at some point and put in there two of the biggest wrestlers to ever do like this style of tournament, this style of round robin tournament. Put those two guys in the finals and let them work their magic, which what you're hoping for, right? So I still think that's the best approach. Would I be surprised if Ricochet ended up being Kazuchika Okada? No. That is also something that I would not be surprised about anymore. Like a year ago, I'd tell you, no, there's no way that's happening. But now, with how Kazuchika Okada feels in 2024, no, I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if Ricochet wins. Ricochet's in the, he has the heel turn. He's retweeting Andrew Tate on X, formerly Twitter, the everything app. He's getting himself a little pushy push. He's getting a little pushy push moving forward here. So if you ask me right now, I think that match is a lot more up in the air than maybe some people would think. And that's mainly because I'm kind of on board with the fact that Kazuchika Okada is kind of a nothing burger now, and that's astonishing to me. He's entered. It kind of feels like he's entered his surfing with Shinsuke Nakamura era. This guy being one of the absolute best to ever do it, a true to form superstar, comes to AEW with a lot of excitement from fans and vehemently underdelivers throughout. I don't think he was really, I don't think he was really well pushed to begin with. And I think his level of effort is not there as well. It's very reminiscent of other versions of Okada that we've seen in New Japan. Herniated disc Okada or Balloon Man Okada. Those were versions of Okada that really didn't apply the greatness that we were used to seeing from legitimately a Hall of Famer, one of the greatest to ever do it, a true to form superstar. I feel like people who've never seen Kazuchika Okada until he was hired by AEW, but maybe heard about the name and heard New Japan fans like pulling their hair out and going, "Oh my God!" Whenever Okada would have these matches, like, "Oh my God, this guy's so great! He's one of the greatest." The Kenny Omega matches, etc., etc. I think a lot of people who heard that and then saw AEW, Kazuchika Okada, were probably like, "I don't get it. I don't see what these other people see. I don't get it." And I don't blame them. That's the thing. There is no blame to be bestowed upon these folks. You sort of just shrug at it. You go, "Well, yeah, it's Kazu." He's supposed to be better than this. All we can do is like, he's supposed to be better than this. So I know there's a lot of people, especially New Japan fans, who were very curious as to how things were going to move forward here in North America with AEW. I know a lot of people jumped off the Okada train very early, or at least earlier than I have, over the course of the summer. And I was always a little resistant, knowing that the Continental Classic was on its way. Then it was like, well, okay, so he's coming in as the champion. It's a G1 style environment. This is like where Okada should be ready to explode and evolve and bring the Rainmaker energy that a lot of us know about. And I think I believe I talked about it when I started previewing the Continental Classic, a few weeks ago, that to me the C2 was going to be Okada's proving ground. Like, this was going to be the kind of the make it or break it situation, where he still has it, or he's perfectly content doing some lazy American wrestling. And I think that as it stands now, I have to join my voices to the chorus of people who are showing tremendous amounts of dislike for Okada's work. There's nothing here that makes him special. There's nothing that makes him feel special. It is crazy to say that right now, Kazuchika Okada feels like just another guy on the roster. He doesn't feel special, doesn't feel out of the ordinary, doesn't feel like a superstar, that's for damn sure. Like, this might be the biggest mismanagement of a star this company has ever had. And it's wild, because it's a guy who should be a shoo-in. Like, he should be a shoo-in like Will Ospreay. Maybe on another level, like not exactly the same type of wrestler, but the same energy, the same vibe, the same the same charisma that comes with it. He should be the same guy. He should be on that same level, but he's not. I think I'm officially off. I think I'm officially off the Okada and AEW train. And whatever they need to do to get him over again is going to take a lot of rehabilitation. I mean, hang on. I'm not saying he's not over, but I'm not saying he's superstar over, which is what he should be, which is what they're paying him to be. They're paying him to be a superstar. Not in the WWE sense, the Oxford language, the Oxford dictionary sense, excuse me. Oxford is not a language. The dictionary is a dictionary of language. But that's the point. They should be elevating him to that point of being a top-notch superstarring draw for the company. But instead, he's legitimately just another guy. And I know he wanted to work with his pals. He wanted to work with the Jacksons. You know, they wanted to do their little thing. And they wanted to do a little, you know, a bit of the ha-has, you know, but there's nothing that makes him feel special. And, you know, to the point that, you know, look, he's going to have his match with Ricochet, which technically speaking, again, should be a great match. Like, that's kind of the floor when you have these types of athletes in there, when you have these types of pro wrestlers in there. Kazuchika Okada and Ricochet. We should be like tearing our shirts off and going, let's go. The floor here is great, but I don't think we should get a great match, but I shouldn't say I don't think we're going to get one. I shouldn't say that. What I should say is I don't know if we'll get one. There's a very good chance we will. Like if both guys, if Kazu decides to put his working boots on and get the job done, and then move on to the finals and have a tremendous match against Ospreay, maybe we'll see flickers of greatness. Maybe we'll see it. But like, to me, it won't be enough for him to, let's say he has like 2 back-to-back on Saturday night. Let's say he has 2 back-to-back great matches on World's End. It's not going to be enough for me to jump. It's not going to be enough to sway me back to, oh yeah, Okada's tremendous. We're going to have to see a little more of the booking. We're going to have to see a little more where this is supposed to go before I get back on any trains here. I'm that's my train of thought right now. To get back onto the other train of thought, to leave this train of thought, you know, wait till he gets to the station and then so I can change. It's gonna take a little more than whatever performances he's going to pull out at World's End. But it's kind of weird. Like, it's actually really weird, especially as a New Japan Pro Wrestling watcher myself, to be sitting here and telling you, yeah, Kazuchika Okada, I don't know what he's going to do. Like, I don't know. I don't know if his match is going to be good, which is, you know, almost blasphemy, but, you know, I really do wonder. I think I'm going to do a proper recap of the Continental Classic on stream later this week, probably on Monday evening, where we're going to, I'll break down my overall thoughts and impressions and, you know, just give some final analysis to it all. But, you know, I like the Continental Classic this year, but I also think that there was a lot more emphasis on creating stories throughout the tournament, as opposed to letting the stories happen within the tournament, if that makes sense. You know, Claudio Castagnoli being a cheater throughout the tournament, like that's one thing. And I feel like there was a lot of shenaniganry this year within the overall total of matches where people tried to cheat and successfully cheated and so on and so forth, as opposed to just letting things run their course and letting the pro wrestling speak for itself. You know, last year we had a bunch of great stories that were being told, that were being weaved throughout the tournament, as opposed to ham-fisting them where, oh, this guy's a cheater. Oh, this guy's a heel, you know, don't know what's going to happen. Oh, Ricochet is turning heel here. I think overall the stories that were told were a lot less woven into the fabric of the C2, if that makes sense. They were more like a layer that was just like dropped on top. Does that make sense? I think that's the best way to explain it. I feel like last year's tournament, we had all these little stories. You had Daniel Garcia's identity crisis. It wasn't part of it wasn't being ham-fisted, but you knew that his losing streak and his lacks of confidence and his distractions were all due to the fact that he had just recently departed the Jericho Appreciation Society, and he was trying to refine his feet as a solo guy. And was he a wrestler? Was he a sports entertainer? That was kind of part of the story. It was the same thing with Mark Briscoe, finding his feet as a singles competitor. After being, of course, a tag team guy for so long, for being, attached at the hip, or his career being attached at the hip of his brothers. Now flying alone, didn't have a successful one this year. Came into the tournament, ended up being, I would argue, the MVP of the tournament. There were all these little details that you could follow, and if you paid attention, they were there and you could pick up on. This year, I feel like we were subjected more to, the Continental Classic was more about building stories than building wrestlers. Does that make sense? I'm trying to express this the best way possible. And I guess whether this is a negative or not is up to you. To me, it's not necessarily a positive. I'm not necessarily saying that this tanked the C2, because I thought there were some tremendous matches throughout. I feel like last year felt more authentic for some reason. And I felt we were closer to the sports-based presentation than we were this year, where I feel like people wanted to, they wanted to tell some sports entertainment style stories really, really bad, but they couldn't because it's the C2, but they nonetheless, they tried, they found all sorts of ways to work around the limitations of the C2, the self-imposed set of rules to do to create like this layer of stories that you just laid on top of an otherwise very good, overall super entertaining tournament that maybe didn't have maybe is not fraught with top tier matches, match of the year candidates. Last year you had Bryan Danielson carrying a lot of that. This year, well, I guess, Will Ospreay, of course, had some fantastic performances, and I guess we were kind of hoping that Kazuchika Okada would wake up out of his hibernation, but he didn't. I'm not trying to sit here and say that this was a bad round robin tournament, because it was not. It was actually really good, and had me enjoying most Dynamites and Collisions that I was watching, because you sit down, you watch some no nonsense pro wrestling, and you just go. So maybe I'm being a little nitpicky, but that's overall my feeling in regards to the C2. Like just a big slab of stories just laid on top of something that it felt disjointed. It felt like it didn't belong. It was kind of strange. I'm having trouble pinpointing it, but we had some great stuff. Just like we had some great stuff to wrap up the C2 on this Dynamite on 34th Street show, which actually started off with Will Ospreay defeating Brody King, starting off with the match of the night. On top of that, I love this match. This match had gave me vibes of those great Will Ospreay Lance Archer matches over in New Japan. If you've seen any of those, you know what I'm talking about. Will and Lance Archer just had this incredible chemistry with each other, and always had like these tremendous one-on-ones. And I really got this vibe here where Will is sort of working from beneath over Brody, who is this big guy, powerhouse, and Will worked that situation really, really well. And he didn't do it in a way that made him look like he was, like a junior heavyweight, or, like this fresh out of the box rookie. He didn't do it in that sense where you're like, where you're like, wait a second, this is Will Ospreay, one of the greatest wrestlers on planet Earth right now. Why is he struggling against Brody King? Because it's Will Ospreay. So it didn't feel unnatural on that end, is what I'm trying to say. Will takes this incredibly nasty bump on the stairs. He takes a spine buster by Brody, who lands him on the steel stairs, but like the point of one of the stairs just like embeds itself into Ospreay's lower back. It's like, oh my God, that looks awful. And you can see it really well on camera, right? That really looked, like Mick Foley used to say, like if it looked like it hurt, it probably did hurt. Some great power moves by Brody King, a sky twister by Ospreay. Brody King is no-selling chops by Ospreay in the ring, and Ospreay's digging deep. He's trying to chop the big man down, and he just can't. Does a tremendous Styles Clash, like just absolutely tremendous move on such a big guy, followed by a hidden blade, but Brody kicks out of that. Brody then lands a Gonzo bomb, and Ospreay kicks out of that, and he wins the match with a Stormbreaker. Just tremendous stuff. Tremendous match. I give it 4.5. It's one of my favorite matches of the tournament. I was mentioning Mark Briscoe being the MVP of the tournament for many reasons. Again, we'll probably talk about it more on stream, and then it'll be clipped and so on and so forth. So don't worry, if you don't have to necessarily show up for the stream to get the analysis, but I think Mark Briscoe was absolutely the MVP. But if you wanted to give like a second prize, if you wanted to give the silver medal, Brody King is absolutely a contender. Brody has had tremendous matches, and I think he's probably the top winner of anyone else in the tournament. The guy who probably benefited from the most who benefited from the tournament the most. There, we can use sentences. We're good at that. I believe a lot of fans always, I believe most AEW fans think that Brody King is a great wrestler and already like him, but I think a lot of people like him more now. And if you were on the fence in regards to Brody King, which is fair, I could understand why too. I think his performance in the C2 probably pushed you over to the other side, to the side of, this guy is good and he should be pushed. In this era of AEW where we seem to be struggling to find stars to push on various levels of the company, and where we try some stuff and then we pull the plug and so on and so forth, and we're experimenting. I feel like Brody King is a sure thing. This is a guy that you absolutely can get behind. You can absolutely push for, not necessarily talking world title, but you go for one of the secondary titles. Make the TNT title interesting again. Put it on him. Have him do the open challenge shit and have him, beat jabrones. Let's go back to when Cody used to do this. Cody, maybe not like as wide as the open invitation where, we'd have indie guys come in and so on and so forth. That's not necessarily what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, Brody King, House of Black badass, is like, no one can beat me. Just like week after week, just have someone show up and I'll beat the tar out of him. And he's a believable guy to do it. And you know what? The fans like him. He's over. So I know that one of the problems that AEW has in regards to its booking is the plans and its inability to move away from said plans when things go askew or maybe demand a revision. I don't know what the plan is for Brody King or anyone else, but I would slate Brody King in a better spot than what he is in right now. I would have him go for the singles push. Never mind the House of Black guys. This is the guy that I would push. Now, I don't know what Tony's promised backstage. That you feel that the Shelton Benjamin, Daniel Garcia thing is not done. Sorry. You could easily slot out Shelton Benjamin. You could easily slot him out, and you're the boss. Like, your job is to get people excited for your product. When you're the booker, that's all you have to do is sit down, look at who you have on your roster, and decide in which spots they're going to end up in. That's all you need to do, really. So nothing against Shelton Benjamin, absolutely not, or against Daniel Garcia for that matter, but a Brody King in a title picture, that's buzz. That gets people excited. And a champion Brody King would also get people exciting. And you have some great basic ass presentation. Like, it's so simple. And sometimes in wrestling, you just need to do the simplest thing. You have a huge, fearsome, dominant champion that everyone tries to knock away, and one that is naturally charismatic, that the crowd is behind. Like, the elements are there. I don't know why we're sitting on Brody King. I really do not know, because he had another tremendous match he can have a tremendous match with anyone. He's so talented. This is just something that has to happen, and not a tag championship with Buddy Matthews or Malachi Black. Again, nothing against those guys. It's more along the lines of, what are we doing with Brody King? Because clearly the audience wants more Brody King, and we deserve more Brody King. I love this match. At this point, Will was not 100% locked in to advance. We needed to see the results of the following 2 gold matches before anything else happened. But you kind of saw where the wind was going to blow here, right? Renee Paquette is backstage, and a weird segment where there's a squadron. Is that what a gaggle? A school of security guards. What do you call a group of security guards? A school of security guards? A gaggle? A pride? A murder of security guards? What do you call a group of security guards? I'm going to use the word gaggle because I think it's a funny word. So we have a gaggle of security guards that are there with Christopher Daniels, and they are barring the way in for the Hurt Syndicate, where they say Shelton can come in because he has a match, but you, Bob Lash, you, MVP, you are barred from the building. I'm like, what? What did they do? Why are they barred from the building? Like, yes, they're not supposed to interfere. They're not supposed to get involved. But over the past couple of weeks, we've seen it's happened, if I remember correctly, at least twice during the C2, where MVP, Lashley, and Shelton came out together and then would cut a promo or whatever, and then the 2 guys would depart, leaving Shelton alone in the ring to do his match. Like, it's never been an issue. I'm thinking, what is this? What is this authority flexing that Christopher Daniels is doing here? We're going a little too far here, CD. Going a little too far. I don't know why we're doing this. Like, I don't understand. And he has Renee relayed the message. So MVP goes, out of respect for you, Renee, I will honor this request, as opposed to calling it an order or whatever. Because, he's like, I like you, Renee, I respect you. So out of, otherwise what? They would have plowed through, because they could have plowed through the security goons. And I don't understand what this purpose served. I don't understand what this served. I don't understand what this was about. It makes no sense. You're barred from building. Who cares? As long as they're barred from ringside. Like, what was the issue? I don't know what, I really don't understand what this bit was about. I really don't understand. It makes no sense. It made no sense. And the more I'm talking about it, the less it makes sense. And it's getting me hot. So let's move on to Darby Allin and Ricochet having their their last C2 match in the Gold League that went to the time limit draw. And I thought that was good. I thought this was pretty good. I gave it 3 3/4 stars. I thought it was a pretty good match. Man, the crowd is buying that Ricochet is a heel, though. I don't know if there was much overlap between the people who were live there on the Saturday for the Collision show and then returned on the Sunday for the Dynamite taping. I don't know if there was much overlap, and the people from the Saturday were all there as well on the Sunday and were like shaking their fists at Ricochet because they remembered what he did to Will Ospreay to get the win. Yeah, it's like I don't know if there's a part of that, but you know, they were going hard at him, and he being Ricochet, he was feeding into that. Like he was gladly just going completely jerk mode with the audience, being a complete ass, arrogant. You know, and here's the thing is like it kind of suits him. It goes well. I'm not against this heel turn. I don't hate it. And if it's this way that he's going to warm himself back up with the Hurt Syndicate, excuse me, then I'm all for it. I think it's a good idea. Now, does Ricochet, if Ricochet does circle back and join the Hurt Syndicate, where, you know, that sort of destroys my fantasy of seeing Anthony Bowens in the Hurt Syndicate, which I think would be a much better fit. And you'd be surprised. I think it would do wonders for his career. It would do, because you got to wash the stench of Max Castor and all these years of doing the scissoring nonsense. You got to wash that off. And the best way to wash it off is to be a part of probably like the most serious group of people, the most serious stable, if you will, in AEW. I think that would work. All business, you know, etc. But anyway, in regards to this match here, I liked it. You know, Ricochet has to get in control with a cheap shot, which again the audience really didn't enjoy. Pretty physical match overall. Brings out a table, Ricochet does, and he does a 630 senton off the top onto Darby through the table on the floor. Okay, that's impressive and nuts. And then Ricochet, like, he goes savage on the ribs of Darby Allin. Allin fights back, lands a pair of code reds. And with 2 minutes left in the show, I was going to say, but in the match, Darby starts laying in the submissions, starts, you know, doing his best to get Ricochet to give up, lands a Scorpion Death Drop, and then tries to go to the top for a coffin drop just to make sure that he puts him away, him being Ricochet, and he lands the coffin drop, but just as the bell is ringing and time is up, that was it. He couldn't cover in time. Good hustle at the end. Got the people into it where they really wanted Darby to get the win, but it didn't happen. So Ricochet with the draw goes up to 10 points. Darby Allin to 7, as we mentioned earlier. Ricochet then wins the block. Or the league, I should say. So he becomes the winner of Gold League, whereas Darby is effectively eliminated since the other contenders were already at 9 points. So yeah, I don't think I predicted a draw here. So we had 2 draws in the tournament, which I'm fine with. Don't get me wrong. I thought this, you know, I thought this was a really good match. I thought it was a lot of fun, some hard work, and some good stuff. You know, and Darby looked good in this finish, right? Whereas like, you know, if the time limit draw was just like 5 seconds more, he would have beaten Ricochet. Like ultimately, that's the message that you're supposed to get here. That, you know, Darby fought to the very end, and he was very, very close to beating Ricochet and maybe perhaps even securing a spot for himself in the at the World's End semis, but didn't quite work out that way. And look, I'm still kind of feeling. I have that kind of feeling that Darby Allin, they're clearly lining him up for big things, for a world title shot. I don't think Jon Moxley's dropping the title at World's End. I don't know, unless Darby is his next challenger, which I don't think he will be. I think, well, he might actually. Look, but the point is that I don't think Mox is dropping the title after World's End either. They're they're prepping Darby for a real big moment to become world champion. I think that is absolutely happening in 2025. Sting sort of said it offhand, at the Dallas All-In presser. He says this kid is going to be a world champion in 2025, but the way he's being booked, and it's a very Darby Allin way of booking him, don't get me wrong. Like, they're not turning him into a Superman where he suddenly does all this stuff. It's like, no, he still gets his ass beaten, but it's his heart, it's his grit, it's his desire, his fire, his belief in himself, and his love of pro wrestling that pushes him forward, right? And I think that's the story that they keep telling, while also making sure to not outright bury him. Like, he may lose matches, but he never loses matches like in a way where you're like, okay, he's toast, he's done. There's always a little more of a spark left, regardless. Anyway, after the match, once it's over, Darby walks up the ramp and Komander's music, his entrance plays. So they meet on the ramp. They do the old Heyman special of one match bleeds into the other, and then you have Darby, who whispers something in Komander's ear and Alex Abrahantes' ear as well, and then he departs. We're not quite sure what it was, but it's just a pep talk or anything. Well, we'd find out in the upcoming match. However, before that, we got a pre-tape from Jay White, basically, hyping his match with Jon Moxley, and saying that Moxley wants this match because he doesn't want to go one-on-one with Jay White, which is interesting. Which is why I sort of hesitated to say, Darby Allin is going to be Jon Moxley's next challenger. I'm like, might be Jay White, and not necessarily Jay White for a pay-per-view, right? Not necessarily Jay White for Revolution or whatnot. Might just be a nice little challenger of the month kind of thing. I think Jay White could fill that role really well, as opposed to having a full-blown pay-per-view program, which, not to disrespect Jay White, who I think is a tremendous, tremendous talent and is not pushed to the extent that he is capable of. He is not pushed to the extent of his abilities, but nonetheless, I think it's still an interesting match regardless. Anyway, that leads us to Komander defeating Claudio Castagnoli. Komander coming out with his Ring of Honor TV title win. Fine little matchup from Final Battle, of course, which a lot of people did. I thought it was a tremendous win for Komander. I thought the final stretch was exceptionally good. But Claudio gets the jobber entrance on this one. So I'm like, oh, is this a sign? And yeah, pretty much was a sign. Fine little match here. I thought it was pretty good. A lot of people consider this one an upset, a surprise win. Like we pondered, Joe and I, when I did the Final Battle review over on the flagship Patreon, and at the same time with on my own review, I sort of pondered whether or not Komander was going to start getting some wins, like coming out with the Ring of Honor TV title off of arguably his biggest North American win. Would he keep moving forward with Claudio? Would he get a big win against Claudio? The answer was yes. So Claudio, because of this loss here, does not advance. And I guess there was a pretty cool move here where Komander does the springboard and Claudio catches him in a stalling suplex, which was pretty awesome. And Komander would work the arm. He'd work Claudio's arm throughout. I thought Claudio was, again, like maybe a guy that I was expecting more out of in this tournament, but his thing was like, I'm going to cheat. I'm a heel. I'm the Death Rider guy, and I'm going to cheat. And I was like, okay. Whereas, I kind of want, we know Claudio can tear it up better than this, can be bigger, badder, stronger. I kind of thought his output was not bad, but underwhelming. Maybe not unlike Okada, but on a different level. Where Okada is a full-fledged, bona fide international superstar. For pro wrestling reasons, so you expect him to sort of deliver on that front. Claudio too, but I guess the expectations are just on another level. But I did expect them to have a better overall tournament. Again, wasn't bad, but it's kind of like, he's doing stuff. He's doing fun Claudio stuff, but nothing you can really sink your teeth into. Nothing that is like, oh yeah, this was absolutely tremendous. So like we said, Claudio does not advance because of this. He stays at 9 points, tied with Will Ospreay, who also has 9 points, but Will Ospreay had the tiebreaker. So that means that officially Ricochet wins the Gold League and Will is the runner-up. So after all of this match, the Death Riders hit the ring to attack Komander. And then Jay White and Orange Cassidy come out to do the save. And then Jon Moxley slinks in after everyone and cracks Jay White across the back with the briefcase that Marina Shafir carries around. And Mox starts cutting a promo. Adam Page comes out to great reactions from the audience. And then the three challengers, they take out the rest. They all land their finishers, I should say, on Mox. And they remain in the ring. There's a little tension in regards to Jay White reaching for the briefcase and Adam Page putting his boot on it. He's putting his big old cowboy boot on the thing. So on the briefcase. So that's where we're at. There we go. That's what we got. Fantastic. Nice little angle to hype the main event, and a fine little match. I gave it 3.5 stars. I liked that. I thought it was good. Don't get me wrong, but it's a 3.5er if I ever saw one. We get a little sizzle reel for Mercedes Moné and Chris Statlander's rematch. They're giving it the treatment with the big the big Roman numerals. The big Roman numerals, the Moné Statlander 2. So a lot of people are excited for that for World's End. I'm down with it. It was good one time. It'll probably be good a second time, hopefully, right? The pressure's a little more on now, I'd say, to deliver a really great match. That leads us to Kazuchika Okada defeating Shelton Benjamin. This was fine. I don't have many thoughts on this one. I don't have many notes either. I didn't think it was particularly... I don't think it was a strong tournament match. I think it was a fine little TV match. I gave it 3.25 stars. It was a little rough at times. I don't know. I thought this was in the image of Kazuchika Okada and his AEW work so far. And Shelton Benjamin, I don't know. Have we hit the Shelton Benjamin ceiling? And I'm saying this without an issue, right? It's just like people are extremely overhyped when it comes to Shelton. Have we seen the ceiling? Is this as far as he can go? Because he's had some good matches. Don't get me wrong. I still don't want to poo-poo on Shelton Benjamin because I think he's tremendous. But the guy is he 50? I think he is 50, right? And the guy is 50. Body works in a certain way when you're that age. So, it's like whatever it is, right? How old is he exactly? Let's take a look. Yeah, he's 49. He's a year younger than I am. I mean, again, no disrespect. I don't want to, but maybe we've seen it. Maybe this is how far we're gonna get with Shelton Benjamin, which is still pretty damn far, which is still really good, right? We just to be sure we're clear. I'm not saying, oh well, womp womp, not at all. Not even close. Like if this is the most we're gonna get out of Shelton Benjamin, I think this is pretty good. Like that's a pretty good exchange. Anyway, we already talked about Okada. Yeah, I thought the match was a little rough at times. It's all right, 3.25. Again, don't have much thoughts about it. So for the time being, so at 10 points, Kazuchika Okada secured a spot in the semis. It was just a question as to whether he was going to win the league or come up second. Renee Paquette is backstage. She's with Swerve Strickland talking about New Year and whatnot. And then Ricochet comes in to start bragging about his win. And then he promises Strickland that he's going to win the C2, calls Swerve Stefan. And, look, a lot of posturing. We're clearly getting Swerve versus Ricochet fairly soon. Probably once the C2 is done, which makes me wonder what we're going to be doing with Swerve and the Hurt Business. Was that just like already done, or are we going to revisit that? Which also feeds into this idea that Ricochet may be posturing for a job with the Hurt Syndicate proper, and that we might revisit that as well. Look, we'll see. Another New York minute from Chris Jericho, who challenges Anthony Bowens. Or at least sets up a match. I don't know if he challenged. I don't remember. But he sets up a match with Anthony Bowens at Rampage tonight, as I'm recording this on the 27th. Last Rampage ever. You'll notice that there has never been any language that was used by Tony Khan saying that it was canceled, that it was the last one ever, that it was going to be the final Rampage. I'm just saying. I'm not saying that suddenly next week Rampage is going to be back, on January 3rd and everyone. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is that that's all we have right now. That all I'm saying is right now they've never officially said like, oh yeah, Rampage is done. It's never coming back. It's finished. Just saying. Toni Storm defeated Taya Valkyrie as my dog plays with her toy in the background. Her squeaker toy. I don't know if the microphone's picking it up or not. I'm picking it up. Tell you what. Yeah, this was what it was, I guess. Like, all right, it's fine. A rather, they're still doing, the gimmick. You've figured it all out by now. Is that Toni Storm is now has some kind of amnesia and is a rookie. She thinks this is her big break. And she's fighting someone like Taya Valkyrie, who is supposed to be, who is a veteran. So the veteran sort of controls the entirety of the match, and Toni slips out a win with an inside cradle, right? Yeah, and that's the gist of it. Not much to break down here, but just to remind everyone, I have a much higher tolerance for certain types of character work and whatever you want to call it, gimmicks, angles, whatever, than others. I know a lot of people hated the Timeless Toni Storm stuff. I hated the Timeless Toni Storm stuff when the gimmick was keeping her from having great matches. I'm really consistent on this. So that's when she started nuancing the gimmick and got back to wrestling great matches. Then I'm like, okay, I don't care then. If you want to do a goofy ass gimmick, it's fine. As long as it's not impeding on where it matters, on where this whole thing matters, which is in the ring once the bell rings. So it's the same thing here. I know there's a lot of people who love this stuff. I know a lot of people who really hate it. This amnesia gimmick. But as long as Toni is able to go out there and have Toni Storm matches, I'm fine. This was not a Toni Storm match, but that's okay. It's Taya Valkyrie. It's a lower card match. It's just something to advance the story. I understand what it's for, so I'm not going to overanalyze this, right? But the next time Toni Storm is on a pay-per-view match with in a big time spot, like she's eventually going to wrestle Thunder Rosa, one would think, right? The way things are sort of settled. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I'm the only one seeing this. But then it's like, I need Toni Storm to wrestle like Toni Storm and not like do gimmick, do shtick. Because then that's how you're going to turn me off. So again, doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me as long as it doesn't bother me. How about that? We get a video recap of the Adam Cole MJF stuff that happened. The lead up with some stuff that happened on Collision as well, and for the World's End match for the ring. And then Renee is backstage talking to Hangman Adam Page. Then again, a Christopher Daniels, the babyface authority figure, comes in and says, "Hey, you don't have any friends, and you're facing the Death Riders. And Orange Cassidy has friends. Jay White has friends, the Bang Bang Gang, despite the fact that they're all injured, right? They haven't been around for weeks. But you don't have any friends. So if you want a friend, I'll be there to be by your side and stick up for you, right? So you have the babyface authority figure basically saying, I'm going to help you cheat to win. Yes, this is the interruptions that we have to deal with when we have a dog hanging around and who just got a brand new squeaky toy for Christmas. That's what Santa Claus brought for Christmas, a brand new squeaky toy. So now we're very excited at the prospect of a new squeaky toy, which squeaks just exactly like the other toys. Don't get me wrong. It's like, but it's new, right? It smells new. It smells like the pet supply store, which we love to go to. It's like the most fun place on earth. Yeah. What more do you need? We're just going to power through this. We're just about done. Back to the Christopher Daniels stuff. It doesn't make sense, and I don't know why we're doing this. A lot of people seem to think that this is setting up the return of the Elite. I think at the very least, Kenny Omega, I think a safe bet for this Saturday is Kenny Omega returning to AEW. Oh my goodness, he's going to return to AEW before having a match in New Japan. Gee Willikers. It's almost as if all of this was planned and thought out. But, again, back to the Christopher Daniels stuff proper, it doesn't make sense. And it's kind of dumb. And, again, a second backstage interview tonight that just leaves you more perplexed as to, oh, yeah, this is cool. Where you're just like, why are we doing this? Why is Christopher Daniels, again, like an authority figure, basically saying, yeah, you know what? I'll help you maybe cheat your way to something. It's like, where he's basically saying, I will help you win this title. And this is a babyface authority figure. A babyface authority figure that doesn't even make sense to still be around because he was supposed to be an interim, general manager, EVP, whatever, until Tony Khan returned from, being pile driven into the ground with the neck brace and everything. And Tony Khan returns and Christopher Daniels is still the on-air authority figure. This authority figure stuff has not worked. It has never been good. It's always been, it's always stunk. And the more it moves forward, the more it stinks because it makes the least amount of sense on the show every time Daniel shows up. It's like a few weeks ago, when the Elite were running away from the Death Riders. You remember that? They were shredding the documents and all that. And they were running away. And then Christopher Daniels runs up to them and says, why are you running? You need to stay here and fight. Christopher Daniels, who was put in position who was put into the interim EVP position in opposition to the Bucks to keep the Bucks in check. Now he's running to them saying, "Why are you guys leaving?" He should have been going, "Good riddance, hit the bricks." And now this, and Hangman is, he's tweening, but not that long ago was a heel. He was setting houses on fire. Now Daniels is like, "No, big, sure, let's do it. Let's teach these guys a lesson." Hanged man. It's all dumb. It's all super, super dumb. And then we get the main event where Kyle Fletcher defeated Daniel Garcia to win Blue League and position himself. That's it. And actually won the tournament. He is with 12 points. He is the wrestler overall who has scored the highest. So not only did he win Blue League, he one would argue that he won the block competition overall. And he's going to be facing Will Ospreay, as we mentioned earlier, at World's End. Good physical match. Garcia's pulling out everything he can. He's working hard. He's doing the draping neck breakers in response to Kyle Fletcher trying to do that. As Kyle Fletcher continues to do some little winks over at Randy Orton. A guillotine as well. Brainbuster on the apron by Kyle Fletcher, which was tremendous, followed by a last ride. He lands a low blow and a brainbuster in the ring, but Daniel Garcia kicks out. There's a weird spot where both guys seem to tumble off the top rope when Daniel Garcia tries to do like a rear naked choke on the top. I didn't know if that was planned. It looked a little rough, but ultimately didn't bother me. Kyle Fletcher lands in some shots, a dragon tamer or a sharpshooter by Daniel Garcia. He wrenches back as he is wont to do, and usually brings them the wins. But and the crowd is really into it. The crowd is super behind Danny. And however, Kyle Fletcher reaches over, grabs Garcia's head since it is very, very close to his own, and he's able to break out of the Dragon Tamer. And it all comes to an end with a kind of a sloppy version of the El Generico Turnbuckle Brainbuster, which is something you should never be sloppy on because it's a very dangerous move, and that gets the win for Fletcher. I liked it. 4 stars. I thought it was very good. I thought it was really, really good. Great little finish to league competition. I wouldn't be worried about Daniel Garcia. For all of you who are worried about Daniel Garcia is going to be fine. I think for most of us, the minute that he won the TNT title at Full Gear, I think for a lot of us it was like, oh, okay, he's not advancing. If he had not won it, I think there would have been a much more compelling case to even, like I had been making, to have him win the tournament this year. But we're pushing Kyle Fletcher. That's the thing. Makes sense. It's fine. Garcia has the title. He'll go off and do his thing. Look, he's got a little program set up with Shelton Benjamin, right? That they'll hopefully, probably follow through on. One can only hope. Anyway, great babyface energy for Garcia. He had the crowd behind him, and Ospreay at the end of the match comes down to the ring for a showdown with old Kyle, and that all wraps up. But the show doesn't end. We end with a tremendous promo by Jon Moxley once again, another pre-tape where he's just talking about his vision of AEW, one which I entirely get behind. I don't know why he's the babyface. Why he's not the babyface. I mean, there was a time in this company that the sports entertainers were the heels, and people who talked like Jon Moxley were the babyfaces. I'm just saying, it's a little topsy-turvy if you ask me. Anyway, that's where we're at in regards to this wonderful show called AEW Dynamite. The December 25th. It's actually, I didn't realize this. It's actually the last Dynamite of 2025. When we next see each other, it's going to be a whole new year for Dynamite. It's going to be the Fight for the Fallen one too. The first simulcast on Max at the same time for all of you Yankee Doodles out there. You'll be able to enjoy Dynamite wherever you want. So, a new era kicking off. The show's looking pretty strong. I think they want to make a good first impression for the new year. And Dynamite usually has a good track record of January being really good for the show. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do here. In the meantime, I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to thank you all for giving the AEW Dynamite review a listen, and thank you very much for listening to the reviews all throughout the year as well. I appreciate it a great deal. I will, of course, be continuing this throughout the year, barring any disasters like last year. I'll be going strong the entire year. Trust me. Well, trust me. I'll do my best. How about that? But nonetheless, I do appreciate you all listening, and I appreciate your support in sharing and liking and subscribing and following, whichever way you decide to do it. So thank you. Well, I'll gladly be back next week to continue reviewing AEW Dynamite. So in the meantime, have a great rest of your week. Go watch some Randy Orton and get back to me, and I'll see you next time.